G'day everyone, welcome to Footyology Final Siren following a, in the end, relatively comfortable 21-point win to Geelong over St Kilda. A hard-fought win though, and a result that might have been considerably different had the Saints had their kicking boots on. That they certainly didn't, particularly early on. We're here to break down the game for you. Most importantly though, we're here to take your questions and your comments, not only on this game, but anything else you'd like to talk about on the football agenda. Big round coming up this weekend. We'll give out tips for the other 8 games in round 9 closer to the end of the show. But let's start by chatting about this game. And to do so, I will bring in my Footyology Final Siren co-host, Mark Fine, whose Saints fought pretty hard but couldn't get the chockies in the end. What'd you make of it tonight, Finey?
Admirable effort, their best performance, I think, this year in terms of tackling a serious opponent. Obviously, they felt way short against Richmond and Port Adelaide. Geelong came into this game. They were so good last week, they became premiership favourites. Look, the game plan was right, the attack was right, the finishing was terrible. And once they seemed to sort of get on top of that, a bit of cruel luck to lose Rowan Marshall early in the third quarter, sort of stuffed St Kilda's structures. Geelong were always going to respond, and St Kilda needed to be at full tilt and full manpower, and then crouch off for 10 minutes at the end of that quarter didn't help. But for all of that, they had their chances, and you've got to admire 2 or 3 Geelong players that lifted that team. I thought Gary Rowan was superb from probably three last quarters. Guthrie all night, Duncan, Smith and Higgins. It was just the class, wasn't it? In the crushes, the class wanted for the Cats.
Well, I mean, that class, you looked at their list pre-season and it was always going to be their ace up the sleeve, I suppose, just the depth of talent. Gary Rowan's an interesting one because he's not a player who's been noted for consistency across his career, but the sort of form he's showed over the last few weeks, it's as good a patch as I can remember him having in his career. And look, we talked also last week about the brand of football they played against Richmond, and we talked about horses for courses. And it was interesting tonight, you know, they started off playing a pretty fast sort of brand of footy and sort of slowed it down quite deliberately and went with that possession-based style, and it seemed to work for them. So that flexibility of the brand of footy they played, I think, is a strong suit of theirs as well. Look, all that on the table tonight, the longer-term ramifications for the Saints with that, what looks like a pretty serious injury to Rowan Marshall. Of course, Zach Jones already out. Anything you would like to put on the agenda, send your questions through now wherever you're watching this, be it on Twitter or on Facebook. We will endeavour to answer as many as possible. And while you're sending through some, we will go through the details now in that wonderful pseudo-1980s graphic style we like to have on this show. So let's look at the quarter-by-quarter scores first up. And really costly first quarter by the Saints. As you can see, they're 7 behinds to the Cats, 2-1. Just in terms of possession that first quarter too, actually the inside 50s were pretty even, but the Saints certainly were dominant in the centre of the ground where they had a big stranglehold on the hitouts, generated enough scores, but obviously couldn't put them through the big sticks. Brad Crouch pretty good in that opening too with 10 disposals. They found their kicking boots eventually after at one stage being 110, but St Kilda went to the halftime break 3-11, the Cats 4-2, so 3-point lead to the Saints. 2 goals to the Cats and 1 to the Saints in the third term. So again, pretty dour sort of game scoring-wise. And then it opened up in a big way early in the last quarter. And in games like this, that's often all it takes, just a 5-minute burst of open, flowing footy. That's what the Cats are able to generate. They kicked the first 3 goals of the last quarter. And in this sort of game, a 23-point lead was pretty considerable. And that's about what they won by, 21 points in the end. The final scores 10-8, 68 to the Saints' very inaccurate 5 goals, 17, 47. Let's have a look at the goal kickers And the best for the Cats, 2 to Brad Close, 2 to Rowan, 2 to Tom Hawkins, who also gave away 2 goals. Geez, I love watching Tomahawk play. Singles to Narkle, Cameron, Cam Guthrie, who was outstanding, probably best on ground, and Menegola. And for the Saints, 2 goals to Tim Membry and singles to King, Butler and Steele. The best, as voted by Mark Fine for the Cats, he had Cam Guthrie, BOG. I concur wholeheartedly. Gary Rowan, Isaac Smith, good running game from him. Mitch Duncan, very solid, reliable midfielder. Zach Tui down in defence. And the classy Sean Higgins. For the Saints, Finey, your best were Steele, Jack Bytel, Sinclair, Billings, Crouch and King. In fact, your best, notable for the preponderance of Jacks, the first 4 in your best, in fact, Jacks, Steele, Bytel, Sinclair and Billings. Let's get, go on.
In there, Rowan, despite his courageous effort in the third quarter, backing back with the flight of the ball, I couldn't put Loney in for a 5th Jack.
Yeah, he got cleaned up pretty comprehensively, didn't he? Let's get straight into the questions. Grant King says, Richmond supporter here, Hunter Clark to mid, Seb Ross to half back, for Christ's sake. Yeah, Ross is an interesting one, Finey, because he's ended up with the 2nd most disposals for the Saints with 26, but I can't say he was overly conspicuous by my observations. What do you make of his game?
I thought he was very good tonight. Very good.
Okay.
This game played in tight, and St Kilda were down on numbers, without the likes of Gresham and Jones and Hanbury. No, I thought Ross was very good tonight. He was unlucky not to make. If his name was Jack, he would have made my best.
Oh, it's interesting. There are some players you just don't notice a lot, and he must be one for me. Whereas someone like Steele, I'll always notice Jack Steele. So
I thought this was Bytel's breakout game. I just thought his tackling was fantastic and great clearance work as well by the 23 for the Saints.
All right, Simon McNabb asked, do the Saints have goalposts at Moorabbin? Somewhat facetiously. I mean, look, this has been a recurring problem for them, hasn't it? I think I heard during the call they've got the 3rd worst record in the league from set shots this season. It's funny, it's funny with when sides are kicking a lot of points that we analyse the game so deeply these days, but there are some times when it really is as simple as you got to kick straight. And look, I mean, had that 7 behinds in the first quarter been even 4-3, I mean, it could have been a different story altogether, couldn't it?
I mean, a lot of them were just absolute sodas, weren't they?
Yeah, well, the first 5 particularly, and I wrote them down, you had Marshall in literally the first attack of the game. You had King.
Yep.
You had Membry. Then another one to King. King at one stage had 1 goal 4 or 1 goal, I think 1 goal 4, 1 goal 5.
Yep.
And the Saints at their worst were 1 goal 10. I mean, if that's 5-6 even, it just puts so much more pressure on the opposition.
Rowan, 13:30.
What's 13:30? Sorry.
2 weeks.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah,
Hey,
well.
Last week.
No, enough said. Ronnie Isco, how does one get to AFL standard and not be able to kick a goal from 20 metres out directly in front? Well, human error, Ron. It's what helps make the game what it is, I guess. Glorious uncertainty. Well, inglorious uncertainty if you're a St Kilda fan. But I don't know, King, generally speaking, he's not a fantastic kick accuracy-wise, is he? But he's not terrible as a rule, is he?
Going through a bit of a period at the moment. I mean, look, King ended up kicking goals. He kicked a couple, didn't he? And I thought he played really well. Look, his marking was fantastic.
Yeah.
The third quarter was a pity, but Membry missed and then kicked goals. Look, the fact is that on top of you can't just blame bad kicking. I mean, that game was almost made ferocious and tight by the umpiring or lack thereof. Where on earth was holding the ball or throwing the ball or not trying to get rid of the ball or sitting on the ball for both teams? Where was free kicks? If there were free kicks paid, it would have been a very different game. But because there weren't, it was a very tight slog, and you've got to give credit because Geelong produced the class.
Yeah, they really let it go. It'll be interesting to see how the subsequent games over the weekend are umpired. And the one thing they didn't let go, though, was, again, and it seems to be a crackdown over the last few weeks, is that ruling of distance on the kick to allow a mark. And I thought there were a few tonight that were clearly 15 metres that were called play on. It's like they're making a real point of, making that almost more than the 15 metres the absolute minimum to allow a mark. Didn't you think?
You know what they were doing? They were penalising chipping the ball around.
Yeah, true.
None of those 15 metres were telling marks. It was just like, if you're going to chip to somebody, let's keep this show going.
And and look, whilst I understand the philosophy of that, I disagree with that on principle. I mean, it's like you're dirty on how sides are wanting to play the game, so you're trying to, sort of be overly officious with the rules, but you've still got to umpire to the rules. And I agree, a lot of those that they call play on were the ones there was no immediate contentious point looming if the guy wasn't paid the mark.
No, they were trying to short circuit Geelong's method of slowing the game down. It really wasn't fair to Geelong, to be honest.
All right, Richie Blunden says it's a shame that Max King froze under the Friday night lights. I'm sure he'll come good, but obviously his performance hurt the Saints. The Cats held their nerve, but should have been well out of the game by half-time. Thoughts? I wouldn't have thought they would have been out of the game. They would have had their work cut out for them.
Yeah, and I don't think he froze. I think he showed his precocious talent. He's just a great mark and covers a lot of ground. But coming into this game, he had some kicking issues, and they've got to address it. No, he was fine. He played well.
Yeah, I mean, look, the interesting thing just about that, would Geelong have been in a heap of bother had St Kilda kick straight? You'd sort of think so superficially. The stats don't seem to indicate that. Like, come half-time, Geelong actually were in front on contested ball. They were in front uncontested ball. They'd had 20-odd more disposals. The inside 50s were 25-20 St Kilda's way, so a bit of an advantage there. Saints were up in the clearances, marginally up in the tackles.
The name of the game for St Kilda was to get clearances, especially out of the middle, and try and get the ball down with the 6-6-6. Because Geelong were just flooding players back if St Kilda couldn't move it quickly. How many Geelong defenders were there in that back 50 in the first quarter?
Yeah.
So, no, this was a game that St Kilda had to... Clearly, you're playing a very good team, St Kilda. You've got to take your chances when they appear. Because Geelong quickly... St Kilda got 8 points up, and Geelong quickly turned that around. Don't believe for a second 7 points were going to be 7 unanswered goals.
Particularly early, though, too, because, I mean, it's quite logical. The more they missed, the more they looked likely to miss, didn't they?
And that puts pressure on in the next bloke. Anyhow, this was a better effort by St Kilda than against Richmond and Port, of course.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess we've got to ask the question, what are they now, 4-5? That we know they've got a really tough draw. I know they've got, this was one of 2 clashes they've got against the Cats. They've got another top 8 team twice, might be
Port Adelaide.
Port Adelaide, right, okay.
Sorry, St Kilda play Richmond twice, Geelong twice, I think West Coast twice.
I had a feeling they played Sydney twice, but anyway.
The bottom 4 team that we played twice is Sydney.
And they've got several road trips as well. Plus, you've got Zach Jones now out for a fair stint and Rowan Marshall. Well, if that is stress fractures, and the reports I saw just before we started this indicated that it could be, you think that's going to be a considerable length as well.
Yeah.
So
out for the year.
Got their work cut out for them. I actually don't think the 8 is going to change, to be honest. I think the Swans are going to hold their spot in the 8, and I don't think anyone else is even vulnerable.
Yep. No, at the moment, that's the way it's looking.
All right, let's keep moving. Leroy Jones says, recruiters will sign kids who have only started playing footy who can't kick because they're athletic. Who are you talking about there, Leroy? Name some names for us.
The King brothers weren't picked because they were athletic. They were picked because they were dominant footballers all their lives.
You know, one guy who I was watching tonight, and he's played quite a few games now, and I'm trying not to be harsh here. I keep looking at him and I think, what is it they see in you that you bring to this side? I don't think he's terrible, but he just always looks to be, and tonight he had a chance to kick a goal and he dished it off instead. And I'm talking about Zach Guthrie, whose brother happened to be the best on the ground. And look, Zach might be a bit of a slow developer, but I'm not sure what attributes he actually brings to that team. Do you see something in him that I don't?
He certainly bullshitted the umpires tonight. The umpires got to be smarter than that. Fair income. When Zach Guthrie is 60 metres out on the boundary, just because he says he's having a shot at goal, to give him 30 seconds was ridiculous. And of course, what did he do? Turned around and short passed it to somebody.
Yeah.
That was stupid. And then how about the one at the end of the game with Gary Rowan? That's not a rule, by the way, what the umpire did.
I can't remember. What was it?
So BT was having a conniptic fit because he was going, he can kick this distance, he can kick it, you've got to give him the 30 seconds.
Oh, yeah.
The umpire did something very unusual. He didn't give him 30 seconds. He blew the whistle and told him to hurry up, but then he never called play on. It was 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
Yeah, well, with that and the 15-metre thing, you get the impression they've been told to make sure the game keeps moving, which, you know, again, philosophically, I think is a good thing, but it's sort of how you do it, I suppose. Grant King asks, how can Paddy Ryder not be in your best, Finey?
Very close. He actually was in my best, but his name wasn't Jack. No, look, he was great. Paddy Ryder played a great game. But in the end, because he was one out, he did sort of get run over a bit at the end, unfortunately.
Simon Morris really likes Brad Close, going to be a really good player. Well, another one, Geelong aren't short of shorts who can play near goal and apply defensive pressure and kick a goal or two, are they? They've got a bevy of them, you know, Dowhouse, who didn't play tonight, Atkins, who they've started playing in defence. There's someone I'm missing there. Who's the third one? Oh, Grimer, yeah, of course. So, did I say Grimer? Yeah, Brian Myers. Yeah, sorry. Where am I going with that? Grimer played for North Melbourne. All right. Robert Rice.
Very important to win tonight.
So I'm having trouble hearing you today. I don't know what this connection's like, but try again. Go on.
I hope others are not. I'll check with our producer. How's that coming through your end, Damon?
Damon says it's coming all right now. Okay, so try again.
Now, very important in their win was Jordan Clark, because he was the one who smothered Frawley and then got that wonderful little handball to Gary Rowan to really put the game beyond the Saints. Two very important, desperate pieces of play by Jordan. I thought they should not go unnoticed.
Who was a late inclusion, wasn't he, for Dowhouse and young Max Holmes, who I was hoping to see play, was the medical sub. I must admit, it's one of the few games I've watched where I've been hoping for a serious injury to a Geelong player, so I could see someone play footy. Robert Rice says, with Close and Narkle, there's another one, doing their roles as small forwards for Geelong, do you think Dowhouse might struggle to get back into the team? Well, it's pretty hot competition, isn't it?
They do love Dalhouse, though, for the pressure he applies. Narkle was great early, did fade.
Stephen Ackroyd, Bytel up for a Rising Star nomination?
By Joves. I thought he was very good, Bytel. Really tackled ferociously tonight. Sort of out-Selwooded Selwood at the coalface. Played a real Joel Selwood type game.
What about Highmore? What did you think of him?
A little bit of a deer in the headlights, particularly early, but he he improved where James Frawley faded, unfortunately.
You know, the other St Kilda prospect I keep hearing a bit about, but I haven't really had a chance to watch him, is my namesake, Finey, Leo. I think Leo Connolly.
Leo Connolly.
Yeah.
Yeah, they reckon he's a beautiful kick. So let's see him. I thought Webster was okay tonight, except that pushing the back to Rowan. I thought he was pretty good.
Oh, that was the tunnelling one, wasn't he? Yeah. Yeah, which was probably there. Q has asked about 4 questions in a row. So he says, Finey, are you upset about the Saints tonight?
No.
Okay, keep it that brief. I'll ask you the others. How about the set shot kicks?
Yes, very upset.
Give Close some credit. He was great.
He was. He's very sure-handed and knows what to do around the goals.
All right, here's a more contentious one. Dougal Howard been poor in 2021. I can see why Port Adelaide got rid of him.
That's unfair.
Too slow, says Q.
No. Look, he was good.
I'm liking this pacey answer response thing. So let's go. Let's keep going. Max King can't even catch a cold.
Can't catch a cold.
Yep.
Who said that?
Shane Leon.
Come on, Shane. Don't try and make me bite. This isn't the old Finey's final siren. I'm sure you watched the game. You didn't. Surely your home TV's not up your ass. He couldn't tonight, but he could certainly mark.
See, it might be. The difference being here, we can't tell. Generally speaking, we can't tell from the questions whether people are pissed or not when they're asking them.
I think they were trying to get me to bite. No, he marked okay. He couldn't kick.
All right, Ronnie Isco again. Is the recruiting of Frawley a win for St Kilda? He looks out of sorts for mine.
Well, they sort of had him to fill in, but they don't like Carlisle, obviously. I told you that.
Yeah, I don't like him much either. AJ Meyer says, geez, Finey, we choked. We should have won this game. Feeling sick to the stomach. Bloody Geelong always have the wood on us.
Yeah, I mean, in reality, this was a game St Kilda was offered to as a win in this game would have really been sort of a salve for these early season thrashings. And at 5-4 with Geelong's scalp, St Kilda could say, okay, we can have a crack at the rest of this year. I think that all became problematic when Marshall went off again with that foot. We won't see him for a while, if again this season. And they need him.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, there are some huge ramifications out of that, none the least because Ryder, you know, we can't expect Ryder to do a huge percentage of the ruck work now. So what do they do in place of him? Do they have King do the ruck work in the forward 50 and Ryder elsewhere? Or
well, they have to revisit McKernan or Hunter. That's why they got them.
Yeah, no, fair point. I'd sort of forgotten about McKernan, to be honest. He hasn't been picked for a while, has he?
He is forgettable.
Well, he's very hot and cold. I mean, he's best. You know, he played some really good games for Essendon, but the very next week he could be really invisible, you know, and that basically has been the story of his career. I hope Corey's not watching. Apologies, Corey, but, you know, that's been sort of the sticking point of your younger brother's career.
In a way, heck of a lot out of himself. You know, he's been used in positions. He's been a Mr. Fix-It man for much of his career without ever making a position all his own. So, well done, he.
Mark Howard says he's sober, but unfortunately doesn't have a question. He's enjoying this, though, so thank you. We thank you for your patronage, Mark. And I know Mark is a official Footyology patron because he has jumped on Patreon and paid his dues. And so should you. If you are not an official Footyology patron, how do you become one? Well, we might get Damon to send out a link with one of our tweets. He's nodding furiously, but there are several links to Patreon on the Footyology website. We might even put one on a tweet here. And look, at this stage, we might have some merchandise soon if I get 5 seconds to work out how to do it. But look, it just guarantees keeping this operation going. That's basically what we rely on for the vast bulk of our revenue. So we're asking $7 Australian per month. And we are grateful for your support. And there's a whole lot that comes with that, everything on the website. In fact, I want to say, I am digressing here a little bit, but there's some particularly good stuff on the website this week, including Simon Hill, Australia's leading soccer commentator, has written a great piece about Sam Kerr. And Simon is of the belief that she has just turned in the best individual season by an Australian soccer player, male or female, which will be capped off if Chelsea win the Champions League final, which I think might be Sunday night, or might even be tomorrow night, our time. So really good read there. And
just on that article, can I just add a voice to that?
Have you read it?
I haven't read the article, but that proposition, that contention that this is the greatest season ever by an Australian footballer, through Optus, I have access to all English women's football. So every week I watch the highlights of Chelsea just for Sam Kerr. She won the Golden Boot, but she is not just a finisher. She is a sublime footballer. She gets in position, she heads the ball, she passes the ball. She could have had more goals. And also, she gets taken off quite a bit by the coach, who looks to preserve her and give others an opportunity when Chelsea run rampant. She is, look, we've got to absolutely understand, we have the best female footballer in the world, and that is rarefied air for this country.
Yeah, and I think Simon made the valid point too, that given her status, she still doesn't get the sort of publicity you'd expect of someone of that stature in the game. And, the obvious point you'd make is, if she was a man and had done it the equivalent, she'd be an absolute household name. Maybe she's a household name, but in mainstream media, you still don't read a heap about her, I don't think. The other point I was going to make just on
every week.
No, didn't hear any of that.
Sorry, on the Monday on the news, that should be a main part of the sport. Sam Kerr's got another hat trick, another,
Well, no. It won't be. It'll probably be a story about, is Eddie going to let Port Adelaide wear the heritage jumper? I was going to say a particularly good week for women on Footyology. Frances Leach has written a piece about women in rock music. There is a Carole King tribute band about to launch a tour in Australia at the moment. And besides that, we have a review of the fourth season of The Handmaid's Tale, and a rather controversial view expressed on how that's going from none other than Andrea Connolly, film reviewer extraordinaire, and who may or may not be known to me. All right, let's keep going. Let's get back into it. Yeah, she's my daughter. All right, AJ. No, we've done you, AJ.
Hey, Rowan,
yeah.
If we're doing reviews, can we have a little review? It's about that time of the night. Once again, the coverage of the game, this time both as presented visually by the producer and by the commentators, absolutely is not acceptable.
What particularly got your goat tonight?
Right, there were some key moments of this game that they either talked through or boasted through or gibberish through. I'll give you one moment that was very important in this game. In the last quarter, on the centre wing, a mark was paid to Asava Radaglia when Paddy Ryder was in front. Now, I'm not saying it wasn't a mark, but I don't really know because there was no replay. Why wasn't there a replay? Because it wasn't of interest to any of the commentators who were talking about something else at the time and just mentioned that Radaglia had marked, but it was an intrusion into their discussion. Unlike Zach Tui's kick-in torpedo, which obviously titillated Brian, and whoever's producing Friday Night Football, well, whatever Brian likes, we need to see over and over and over and over and over and over again. Now, I don't need to see that kick 7 times. Not 7.
Kick.
Great kick. But we saw a replay of it and another. and that's enough.
Well, it's a bit like last week when Shea Bolton took, one of the best marks of the last few years, and the commentary was really understated, almost like BT was distracted by something else going on. Bit of controversy about that mark too, which didn't even get voted mark of the week because stupidly they've decided to make this a poll, a popularity contest. Collingwood's social media team, and fair play to them, they encouraged their fans to get on and vote for Brodie Myercheck's mark, and that won the mark of the week. Fortunately, and I wasn't aware of this, but Shea Bolton's mark can still be added to the finalists for the mark of the year.
There are 5 judges' choices, and ultimately the winner will not go to a popular vote.
Well, thank God for that. All right, let's keep going. Dimmer Smeaton asks, what's happened to Butler? He's been crap since his haircut. Hasn't offered a lot. And I guess the interesting thing here, Finey, no, not hearing it. Interesting thing is that, a similar sort of thing happened to him at Richmond. He was a great contributor to that 2017 premiership. And then he really struggled for a game after that.
Yeah, no, I thought he applied forward pressure tonight. His job is in the forward 50. He wasn't able to... He kicked a goal, I think. Kicked one, didn't he? One of the set shots in the second quarter.
Butler. Yes, yeah. He did, yep.
And he applied that forward pressure as required. No, his job was right.
Our mate Johnson Von Trapp from New York says, will the bin sifters, and by that I think he means journalists, be outraged over Hill, Smith and Frawley smiling with each other post-game?
Yeah, that was great, that little Hawthorn reunion.
I did see, actually, I was watching through Fox Footy tonight, and I did see Eddie Maguire, Dermot Brereton and David King conducting a discussion about whether the modern, more, affable sort of player relations have gone too far because Frawley was letting Tom Hawkins do up his bootlace without trying to knock him over. Do you believe that?
Really?
Yeah. Well, it gave Derm a chance to talk for 10 minutes about what he used to do in the 1980s, and that then gave Eddie 10 minutes to talk about, going to the Tunnel nightclub, and then Kingy read out some stats. And I think that's pretty much how it went for most of the night. All right, Matthew Price says, I've got an early start tomorrow. Should I go to bed or have another beer? Have another beer, Matthew, and keep listening to us, and we will lull you into submission. David Haley, an ugly win by Geelong. I'm baffled why Zach Guthrie gets the game. Close may keep Myers out, he says. Yeah, I do like Close. I've got to say that, there's nothing sort of remarkable about him, and I look at it and say, oh, gee, doesn't he do this particularly well or that particularly well? But he just seems a very good, solid small forward who can apply pressure. His pace is good. Seems pretty confident around goals. So again, a sign of the depth they've got. I mean, look, they have loaded up on senior talent for several years now, haven't they? And it's why shouldn't they? I mean, if at the same time you can bring younger players through, and I think Chris Scott's done that really well, actually. In fact, it's amazing this sort of blowback Chris Scott gets because he hasn't landed a second premiership. And you're talking about a guy, and I think some people are unaware of this, I'm pretty sure that Chris Scott has the best winning percentage of a coach of over, say, even 150-odd games in history. It's an amazing winning percentage. In fact, might get Damon, if he can, to go to AFL tables and look up under coaches' records where Chris Scott's winning strike rate ranks, because it's very, very high. But don't you think, Finey? I mean, yes, they've loaded up on senior talent, but it's not like we haven't seen good young players being introduced to that side at the same time. And now you've got Close, you've got Clark, you've got Parfitt, you've got Narkle. Young Max Holmes was a medical substitute, first-year player. So it's not like those guys aren't getting their opportunities.
Rowan, it's as the side has demanded it, because they have been a genuine finalist and a genuine premiership prospect for all these years. You need to keep not you can't restructure the team with kids. You've got, if the opportunity arises, to go for quality, ready-made senior players. And this sort of fell in their lap, but it was as much a curse as it was a blessing when Dangerfield announced that he wanted to come home and play for Geelong. So what might have, without Dangerfield, been the end of an era and time to have a restructuring with young players, which Chris Scott would have done, was not going to happen because they got the best player almost in the comp at the time and were able to reload. You know that there is story circulating that their average age might be set to go up even further by quite some margin at the mid-season draft.
Who are we talking about? They're going to redraft someone, or is there someone else on the radar?
Sandilands.
Oh, someone put that to me on radio the other day, and I thought they were actually joking.
No, that is, they're looking at it. Why not?
Well, that would be pretty phenomenal, wouldn't it?
Yep.
And I'm just having a look at Chris Scott's winning percentage as Geelong coach is 71.62, which after how many games in charge, Damon? I'm just finding this. 222 games in charge. To have a winning strike rate of 71.6% is quite remarkable, I think.
222.
All right, let's keep moving. Your commentary comments have struck a bit of a chord. Finally, Gary Butterfield says the commentary is deplorable, sick of commentators wanting to sound relevant and smart. There's nothing wrong with wanting to sound smart. I don't know if it's that as much as they want to sound like they're having a drink with their mates around the bar and the audience is incidental to that conversation.
Oh, they were not good tonight. Look, I'm telling you, Jack Bytel did some heavy, great work in that first half. And they only mentioned him once. It's like he was getting the ball with no jumper on.
Graham Tangy, good mate, friend of the show. How are you, Graham? In fact, Graham, you'll be interested to know this. I went to an age reunion lunch yesterday down at the Bridge Hotel in Mordialloc. And sorry?
How is Caro?
No, Caro wasn't there. I think Caro's got some family issues at the moment, actually. So we send her our regards. But it was a great age catch-up. People I was working with 30-odd years ago, all in fine fettle. So I'll pass on your regards, Graham, next time we see them. Tim Dole asks, should Max King have a game at half-back to try to get his confidence back?
Oh.
Okay, fine, he's ruled that one out. I'll keep going. Richie Blunder. Now, I'm with Richie here. Richie says, the problem with today's commentators is they make it all about themselves, prepared one-liners and rehearsals for moments do my head in. Just call the game or piss them off to the radio. Well, I'm all for good calling on radio too, Richie. I mean, I think it's pretty important on radio as well.
Look, we've got to cut them some slack. That Friday night team hasn't been at the football for most of the year, have they?
No, well, not when the guys have been interstate, no. So that's a fair point, actually. Ronnie Isco says, asking me, why am I so confident that the Tigers are still good enough to win the flag? All right, Ron, I'll tell you in point form. They've been in this position before. In fact, at some stage of most of the past 4 years, they've been in this position. Last year, for example, they were 7-6 after 13 games. So they were in only as good a position, even a fair bit later than this in the season. Sorry, not last year, 2019, and went on to win the flag as in as dominant a fashion as we've seen. I think they play a finals type football. I think that's really significant. I think Richmond's A game is exactly the sort of game you typically see played in finals, and I think that stands them in pretty good stead. And I think, sure, they've got a lot of really good players out, but they will all return comfortably 2/3 of the way into the season at worst. So they've got plenty of time to get some good footy under their belts. And the fact that they've done it before, I think, is really, really important. I mean, if they hadn't had injuries before, if they hadn't been in a position where their record was only 50-50 this deep into a season, yeah, maybe they would start to have a bit of self-doubt. But they know they can do it from this position. The other one for me is, I think, I'm prepared to say this. I still think Richmond will win the flag. They are still my premiership tip. One of the reasons I say that is because they are the only team I think is capable of winning the flag from beyond the top four. Now, if you finish in the bottom half of the eight, you have to play for and win 4 finals. Now, last year, they didn't win 4 finals, but they did play 4 finals. And playing 4 finals takes a huge physical toll. And it's no surprise that we, in all the history of the 8, we've seen a side win from the bottom half of the 8 once, and that was the Bulldogs in 2016 when they got on an incredible roll. But it's far more the exception than the rule. Richmond is the only side of those teams in the top 8 I think is capable of playing and winning 4 finals. So that's it in a nutshell. Look, I might be wrong, but I think anyone who's saying at this stage Richmond can't win the flag needs their heads read, because I don't think it's a valid I don't think the facts sort of back up that contention. Any response to that, Finey?
I think I agree. Why would we have sat in exactly this position, in a similar position last year, but a very similar position the year before, when they were struck down by injuries? They were sort of level pegging. Every game you thought, all right, this could be the one that ends the dream. They know how to play. Don't invite them to the table come September, because they are so superior to other teams when it comes to finals. And I would not shy away from them as you wouldn't from 8th. Anyhow.
And look, we have, how short of memories do people in footy have? I mean, 2 weeks ago, at this exact time, we were talking about all this stuff we're talking about with the Tigers now after they beat the Bulldogs. And then last week, yeah, they had an ordinary night and Geelong played particularly well. But all of a sudden, it's like all that gets forgotten. I mean, it's the goldfish memories of people in the football media really does annoy me on occasion. I think you've got to look at a whole body of work, not just one night. All right, Andrew Green asks, you can answer this one, Finey. Do you guys think St Kilda are a genuine chance to get Ben King?
Yes.
Yeah, you were saying that a year ago, weren't you?
Yep.
What's his contractual situation?
Out of contract at the end of the year.
Okay. Geez, I reckon Gold Coast will throw the kitchen sink at him to get him to stay. I mean, I mean, they've had some Gold Coast have had some important wins in the last couple of off seasons in getting in, key parts of their future to stay. It would be a real setback to lose someone of that stature now.
Oh, of course it would, but it's hard. He wants to come back to Melbourne, and there's a big pull being a twin.
All right, Jed Zockling, good to see you, Jed. Says if the Giants beat the Tigers tomorrow, they might be the team to displace the Tigers from the 8, obviously. Freddie Ferret's on that wavelength too. He says GWS may well beat them tomorrow. Look, they might, Freddie, but I'm really confident Richmond's going to show us something near their best in that game tomorrow night.
Mm-hmm.
Should be a good one. GS2. Really good games on tomorrow night, isn't there? That and Port Adelaide taking on the Bulldogs. And I'm trying with my Saturday night viewing now just to stick with one game, because I find if I try to watch 2 simultaneously, I don't watch either one closely enough. So you reckon you can do that, don't you?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I like your confidence. All right, let's keep going. Richie Blunden, he's on board with what we're saying about the Tigers. I reckon teams would be very nervous facing up to the Tigers in September until they fall off the perch, not to be taken lightly. History suggests they are in this up to their eyeballs. Yep, we agree. Johnson Von Trapp said that Brayshaw and Lyon contributed to player depression. Oh, okay. Sorry. No, just looking. His earlier comment was Apparently, Fraser Gehrig had a big crack at the Triple M Bullfeds tonight in an interview. Said the Brayshaw and line contributed to player depression.
Really?
Sizable. Yeah. Did you see that footage of Fraser Gehrig in the crowd?
Yeah.
I didn't recognise him.
Yeah.
The camera was on him, and I was thinking, I saw him eating a pie, and I was thinking, oh, they're going to make some stupid joke about a guy eating a pie. I did not recognise him until
I've sort of bumped into him now and then over the last few years because he's mates with a mate of mine. So.
He's not that there's anything wrong with that, but he has put on a bit of condition in recent times, hasn't he?
Oh, he's a good goer, likes a beer, likes a pie, and he's grey.
Yeah, okay. Well, it's sort of encouraging in a funny sort of way when you get to our age.
Uber athletic wingman that he was.
All right, Johnson Von Trapp, if you want to let us know where that Fraser Gehrig interview was, because a few people interested in having a listen to that, I would be too, as a matter of fact. He was never known for his, what's the word, sort of affability with the media, was he? Or, sort of...
No, not a fan.
Accessibility. I did do a decent interview with him. Remember when he made that short-lived comeback?
Yeah.
I interviewed him for a piece about that, and I found him pretty good, actually. But, he's never been a huge fan of having a big media profile.
No, very intelligent and very funny, Fraser Gehrig.
He's from up Albury Wodonga way, isn't he, initially? He played for the Murray Bush Rangers.
Yeah, I think so. Sounds right.
Dimmer Smeaton, confident about the Tigers, 33 points, he reckons. Gary Butterfield wants to know if you are drinking a margarita, Finey.
No, not.
It's, let me guess. Just hold it up. I'm tipping that is lemon cordial.
No, it's the fruit cordial.
So Natalie's taken you off the raspberry cordial, hasn't? Because we all know what that does to you, Finey, don't we?
It's on rotation. All the different flavours.
Okay.
All the fun.
If you're a good boy, do you get that for your play lunch? Or?
Well, you see, Cotties, I stick with Cotties for lime, for fruit cocktail, and for their lemon. But I go to Schweppes for their raspberry because Schweppes is the cordial. The raspberry cordial traditionally used in pubs for Shirley Temples.
Can I just say something? I'm just interested in how many people, not even of our vintage, because it wasn't all that long ago, but when you say Cotties, something immediately comes into my head. Do you know what it is?
That stupid ad.
My dad picks the fruit that goes to Cotties to make the cordial that I like best. I've got this thing about ads, so much so. This is true. I've had this. There was an ad for superannuation. I didn't know this at the time. There was an ad that was on a lot during the women's football, like 2 years ago, and the jingle for it, which was clearly a song, it sort of stuck in my head. There was something really interesting about the song, and I went looking for it like 6 months ago, couldn't find it, and I thought I'm never going to. And anyway, about a week ago, popped into my head again. So I put the question out on Twitter, and straight away, someone came back, a woman called Abby. Hi, Abby, if you're watching, not my Abby, another Abby. And she told me what it was straight away. And she said, I know this because I licensed the music for the use in the ad. Anyway, it's a song called Hands by a band called Alpine. Yep. This band, a really interesting band. They've got like 2 female lead singers with different sounding voices, and the music's it's like nothing I've heard before. Anyway, this song was around 10 years ago. It totally escaped me. Anyway, I looked up the clip for the song. Have a look, people, on YouTube, Alpine Hands. It is the weirdest video clip you've ever seen, featuring a bevy of sort of model type young women dressed in not lingerie but like underwear, and one of them's carrying an axe and chopping up a watermelon. Another one's sort of standing in the shower eating a chicken with her hands, and then they all start sort of kissing. Damon's holding the clip up on screen. They're sort of kissing mirrors and stuff. Like, it is And it's a good clip. It's just really out there. Anyway, then
What's
I
that
want
cigarettes.
what's that?
What's that got to do with cigarettes?
Nothing. It's not that Alpine.
Oh,
And then I looked up the ad. Anyway, the ad was for Host Plus, I think, super fun.
Yep.
Anyway, nice little plug for them. If anyone from Host Plus is watching, give us a sponsorship, will you? Is this product placement, says Freddie Ferret. Yeah, it could be. It could be. All right, let's keep going. Richie Blunden weighs in on the Fraser Gehrig issue, says the Triple M crew called Gehrig the carpet snake through his career. G-Train took umbrage to it. Why would they have called him carpet snake?
no idea. What does that mean?
Is that talking about an unsavoury incident at a nightclub?
I don't know.
Which I vaguely remember. Yeah, it might be. Richie, no, I'm not on the Pepsi Max, Richie. I'm on Coke, no sugar. Thank you very much. Coca-Cola Amatil should be a sponsor of ours. I put away so much of that stuff. It's not funny. Dimmer's dad picks the fruit. Good on you, Dimmer. Never use fruit cup cordial for drinks at cricket. Must be lime or raspberry. Controversial theory. That's from Matthew.
Lemon. When I was growing up, there was another brand of cordial.
Yeah.
It must have been New Zealand because it was Kia ora, which is a Maori term. It's a Maori greeting or something, Kia ora.
It's hello, isn't it? Kia ora.
Yeah. And
I remember Kia ora cordial. Yeah.
50-50, which was half lime, half lemon, half orange.
What about the more upmarket cordials? Like, I'm a bit of a fan of Bickford's. Have you seen their product in the supermarkets?
Yeah. So you know the thing about Bickford's, I told you about them.
Oh, that's right. The message on the bottle.
There's a message of affirmation written on every bottle.
Now what's popped into my head, do you reckon?
What?
Well, I said message on a bottle.
In a bottle, police.
Correct. Radley Chin says, I reckon blaming Saints injuries is incorrect. It would only be the case if we lost the game in the areas where we had injuries. We actually had some of our best play and structure from the depth players who came in and played a great game. Outside of goal kicking, we played one of our best games of the season, and the players we had out might impact structure, but they certainly don't fix set shot kicking, which is our actual issue. Valid theory.
I was about injury during the game, not coming into the game. I think the loss of Marshall was a major problem. And I know it was because that's how they structure up. And, Ryder was great. But if you had Ryder fresh for half that time and Marshall fresh for half that time, it would have been greater.
I'll tell you what, I'll tell you one thing that sort of makes me think, though. Like the 5 guys they picked up for last season all had really good seasons, didn't they? Howard, Ryder, Butler.
Hill was, not Hill's playing his best football now.
Hill and Jones. Okay, but like 4 of the 5 were pretty good contributors. So this year, who have they picked up for this year? They picked up
Crouch, and he's really looking good.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, my point is, I was looking at St Kilda and thinking, gee, they have got a bit of depth now, but I'm not thinking that now. So who hasn't gone on with it, who they would have looked to be going on with it this year of the younger players?
Well, actually, that's not true because they've had to blood 2 younger players, and Bytel, I'm really impressed with. And I'm actually quite impressed with Ryan Burns, who missed the first 8 weeks because of a serious hamstring injury. So he's only come in the last 2 weeks, but he missed pre-season and the first 5-6 weeks of the year. Number 31, I think he's got some promise.
All right, well, I'll be more blunt then. Okay,
Yep.
If there are buts for all of these things, why are they relative to last year pretty ordinary? They are. I mean, it's in win-loss terms, they are.
I don't want to make it look. Do you agree that they look pretty good when Marshall and Ryder are out there together? Because they've played 2.5 games together and they've won 2 of them and they were leading Geelong in the other half of them. That's the only time they've played together. They've been without this. They lost their small defender. Ben Patton was a really good player last year. He's out for the year.
Yeah.
They lost Gresham after 3 or 4 weeks. Certainly one of their best midfielders. Shouldn't rely on Hanbury, so forget him. Jones is problematic, but he is speed that is required. Now, as far as players who are down somewhat, Nick Caulfield is now no longer in the seniors. That's a big fall for Caulfield, isn't it? He was good last year and he got dropped this week, and rightfully so. Jake Carlisle is just not an easy fit, and they need another key defender. Highmore's too young and Frawley's too old. It's like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Neither of them are quite right. So that back line has not been right all season. A, because Patton's not there. B, Caulfield's well down on form. C, Jake Carlisle has not stepped up for some reason, and their immediate replacements are not working. So that back, when you've got a bad back line and an unstable back line, Long has been way down from last year. Ben Long was a good player last year, struggling this season. It all seems to be back of middle. Hunter Clark's come into the midfield, which is fair enough since Gresham, Hanbury and Jones aren't there, but that's a miss from the back line.
I mean, look, my main point here is if you make a final series and you win a final, so you get to the second week of the finals, you would expect a side, no matter injuries or form or whatever, to be a more solid conveyance the following season they have. And the thing, maybe it's because I'm an Essendon supporter. I saw them get dismantled by 75 points against an Essendon side that was also missing a lot of players. That's not the sort of performance you expect from a finalist.
No, look, again, I'm just telling you this, that much of the success last year was centred around a dominant ruck combination, the best 1-2 blow in the comp they ended up being, Ryder and Marshall.
Yeah.
And, with Ryder choosing not to be at the club at the start of the season, and Marshall will barely play this year. But even when he plays, you can see how good he is. He's a wonderful player, Marshall.
Yeah, it's just, again, yeah. No, I agree with everything you're saying. It's just the point I'm making is it's all a bit tenuous,
Well, it does become tenuous. Look, I'm going to say this. It is tenuous. And I think any team who has their strength pulled out of them becomes tenuous. We'll see how Richmond go tomorrow, because let's just have a look at Richmond, who's Richmond's got out, okay? Tomorrow. It's substantial. Now, they're a great team. And let's see, I've tipped them.
I've tipped them confidently.
But I will understand if they lose, having lost the absolute, Bolton, Edwards, Lambert, Cochrane, Prestia, come on. How many teams can survive that gutting? That's their midfield.
But
now,
this is my point. This is my point. They can, because they've got a better system than St Kilda has.
We'll see tomorrow. I have tipped them because I have great belief in them. They were without that midfield, except Bolton was playing in the second half last week. They lost that by 72 points to Geelong. 72 points they lost.
Wasn't 72.
Well, didn't they lose the game by 63 and they were up by 9?
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. All right.
I'm saying they lost a half by 72 points.
Mm.
I've got great belief in them. We'll see if they bounce back tomorrow. And then
you're having a bob each way, then.
No, I believe in them, but I will then be comfortable in saying that great teams are made of sterner stuff. But there is a tipping point. And I know for St Kilda, the tipping point clearly was their 2 ruckmen and 2 or 3 of their midfielders. Now, it is tenuous because you need to certainly not lose to Essendon by 75 points with that. That is not acceptable. That's why tonight was a better showing. You're 100% correct. There is something wrong that a club can fall off the face of the earth in the games they did against Richmond, Port Adelaide and Essendon. That's not right.
Yeah. All right. Look, I reckon we should probably start looking at our tips for tomorrow. So if you're not familiar with this, what do we call it? Wild, wacky tipping. We tip for...
Who's got a wild and wacky business out there?
Well, you could sponsor the Wild and Wacky tipping segment. Very good call. And I've seen a couple of Patreon subscribers getting on board. Andrew Green, the latest one. So thank you, Andrew, for your patronage. In fact, we should do one of those telethon things one night. Just we'll call them out live as people. In fact, we've got about 15 minutes left here, people. If someone wants to become a Footyology Patreon subscriber in the next 15 minutes, we will read out your name and we will grovel suitably to you if you jump on board. $7 Australian a month. And Damon, our wonder producer, Damon Jackman, who I believe isn't a subscriber himself, might be time he put his hand in his pocket.
I told you what happened with that with me once, with the Royal Children's Hospital appeal.
Are you a subscriber to our Patreon account, Finey? I don't think you are.
Are you?
Yep.
Oh, then I will be. All right, I'll
right.
do it. I will. Of course I will.
Good on you. $7 a month for quality, the best of Australian independent sports and lifestyle entertainment journalism. Anyway,
just on that,
yeah.
I once, as a child, the Royal Children's Hospital appeal.
I do know. I've heard this story too, but I can't remember what it is. Go on.
Well, because they had St Kilda players in, and so they said, if you want to speak to, and this was in the 70s, mid-70s, when the rock set in, and we were in for some terrible times.
Yeah.
And they had George, I want to speak to George Young or to Carl Dittrich. So I asked my mum if I could donate $10. And she said yes. And I rang up and I said, look, I'm a St Kilda supporter. And they said, oh, we've got a player here. And I said, oh, good, I'll donate $10. And it was John Manzi. So I said, I'm not donating.
John Manzi was a decent player, wasn't he?
I just didn't, well, you know what, I ended up later in life meeting his daughter, really nice lady. And John was he's very, like many players, very sort of self-effacing about his career and said, look, John wasn't the toughest player. He's sort of a quick little wingman, but it's not who I was after.
Well, I thought you were going to say Don Disher or someone like that.
No, Don Disher was in the stand once when I was signing. I took my football up there in a practice match, and he himself said, you don't want me to sign that, do you?
I wonder if I could come up with the name of a St Kilda player and you wouldn't have a story about them.
Oh, well, that's like me bringing up a game and you saying...
I wasn't there.
Correct.
yeah, no, fair call. Now, I haven't even explained what the Wild and Wacky tipping is. So we tip for the remaining 8 games, but we do it in a very, very convoluted manner. Finey chooses the way we tip. And just to prepare people, he's going to let us in as he takes a sip of the Bacardi Breezer, which he's pretending is lemon and something cordial. What is the device for tonight, Finey?
That's the words prior to the show. It's a device. Well done, Rowan. You're such a wordsmith. Tonight's device is that you will be providing, or I will be providing, a nickname of a famous player that is synonymous with that club, it doesn't have to be a famous player, but as soon as the nickname is given, you'll associate the player and have the tip.
All right. Yeah, it's a good one. I think we can do that. So feel free to weigh in, people, when we get to that particular game. Now, Elle McBell, a great friend of this show, and we love Elle, so thanks for joining us again. But Elle is, and a few people have made this observation, Finey, people are very struck with your apparent tan, and they want to know how in the middle of May you have managed to get such a healthy tan. And I can see where minds are going here. I'm just wondering if it's some quite interesting lighting you've got there, or have you got a bit of bronzer on, or have you been to the solarium?
No bronzer, no lighting. I do a lot of gardening.
There you go.
And I think because when your screen comes on, you look particularly pallid.
Yeah, I know. And can I just say to the people at home, I am not particularly pallid, but I do have, because my overhead lighting is a bit dodgy, I've got a couple of lamps here, and unfortunately, Finey's just gone off screen now.
I'm back.
Are you playing with your phone again during the show, Finey? Because it's...
No, but, you know, with a mobile phone, when you've got 20% left, it takes you off screen, which is very annoying.
Well, you could, okay, we'll have that discussion later. All right, so anyway, that's the way we will do the tips. Finey's explained the reasons for his 10. I've explained the reasons why.
These are a good tipping method because...
Albino, I was talking, go on.
Yeah, I'm just saying, but this is the best tipping method I think I've come up with because the others are problematic, but I think we will have an abundant field to choose from. So we could do this more than 1 week.
Yeah, until we get to the Suns. Oh, no, actually, maybe even then. All right, I'm just getting the games up here, ready to go. So first game on the card tomorrow is at the SCG, and it is between 1:45 p.m. It is between Sydney and Collingwood. They've had some great battles over the years. Who are you going with there, Finey?
Okay, I'm going to go with... I hadn't really thought about this game much, but
so you thought about the device, but you didn't think of it.
No, I'm going to go with Nifty.
Oh, yes. Okay, so, all right. So feel free to chip in here, people. I'm going to name that for people. He's talking there about Nifty Neville Fields, who was a star Essendon centreman, went to South Melbourne, played only 3 seasons there, went back to Essendon in 1981. Glenn Nichols, thank you, Glenn. Glenn has come on board and become a Footyology patron. Thank you. Elle is asking, how do we send in stuff to you guys? Is there a PO box? There's not, unfortunately, Elle. I can, if you want to make contact with me, I can give you a postal address or we can sort something out. Anyway, just hit me up on Twitter or send an email to Footyology, info@footyology.com.au, and we'll see if we can work something out there. All right, so Elle weighed in there with Plugger. That's an obvious one. By the way, I'll just give my tip first. Dimmer Smeaton has come in with the Wiz, Warwick Kappa, of course. I'm going to go with the Tilt.
Rodney Carter.
Rod Carter, famous Sydney fullback, 300 gamer. I think famously kicked his first ever career goal after he'd played 300 games. Robert Rice just went with Tilt as well. Skilts, says Richie Blunden. I don't know if you can have the adaptation of a name. Finey, we've just lost you again. And just don't touch your phone. You've come back. It's all right. No, don't go off screen. There you go.
How about Will?
All good. All right, Tilt, yeah, he's got a couple. All right, next game. So we're both tipping Sydney is the upshot there. All right, next game, battle of the great mid-70s rivals, Hawthorn and North Melbourne. That is down in Launceston at 2:10 p.m. Okay, I'm going to tip first in this one. All right, so we'll try not to go with adapted or abbreviated surnames. That's a bit easy.
Oh, yeah, no, it's got to be a proper Nicky.
All right, okay. So I'm going to go with Rubber.
Rubber. Condon.
No. Ooh, I thought you'd get that one.
That would have been a good nickname for Condon.
So you don't know Rubber?
Rubber. No.
Anyone out there know Rubber? Not coming yet. All right. Well, you give your tip and we'll come back to it.
I'm going for Candles.
Okay. Well, you've stumped me there too. Candles wasn't. Hang on. No, we've stumped each other there. All right. I'm going. Okay. So Rubber was David O'Halloran.
Oh, yeah.
And who's Candles?
Clayton Thompson, who came from Sturt.
Yeah.
He's in the South Australian Football Hall of Fame, played 150 games for Sturt. But when he arrived at Hawthorn in the 50s, he was the tallest player recruit ever. I think he was 200 centimetres, 6'7", which was very rare. Played 50 games for the Hawks, Clayton Candles Thompson.
All right, that was a tough one. I don't think many people would have got that. So we've got a few other tips for that game. Crazy Horse. I'll say the nickname, you say who it is.
Gary Cowton, North Melbourne.
Snake.
Baker, North Melbourne.
Megsy.
Megsy.
Nah, I think Leroy's taking the piss there. If you're not Leroy, tell us who you mean. The Freak.
James Morrissey, Hawthorn.
Plough.
Terry Wallace, Hawthorn.
Okay, that's it for that game. All right, so that was fun. We're both going for Hawthorn is the upshot there. Next game, 4:35 p.m. Saturday at Metricon Stadium between Gold Coast and Brisbane. Traditional rivals, of course, in the Q Clash. It gets tougher here, doesn't it? Because I won't accept Fitzroy players.
Not accepting Fitzroy players?
No.
Well, that's cruel.
It's made it tough. Oh, yes, I've got one. My tip is Fly.
Russell Morris.
No.
Fly.
Correct. Sorry, I just said correct to our producer who knows. Damon knows this one, Finey. Ooh, right. Under pressure.
Fly. Fly.
Premiership player. Just giving you a clue.
Okay.
All right, give you a tip in the meantime.
Oh, well, I've got to think of one now. I'm going to go for Crackers. Also a premiership player.
Oh, yeah, I got it. Clark Keating.
Correct.
So still, you want to have anyone want to have a stab at mine? Fly was my tip.
Not Chris. No, it wouldn't be. Fly.
Played in all three Brisbane premierships.
All three?
Yep.
Okay. Did he play for any other teams?
No. I think the buzz is about to go.
Marcus Ashcroft, no, he's been down south.
Craig McRae.
What was that? Fly?
Yep.
Good on you. Well done. Good get.
Subsequently assistant coach at Collingwood and then at Richmond. And I think he coached Richmond's VFL side, or he's still involved. Now, Leroy's got back to us. Megsy was Keith Gregg's nickname his entire career.
Redhead. Yeah.
Johnson Von Trapp has gone Goose.
For who? Maguire for Brisbane.
Yep. And if I was giving that one, it would have been Moose.
Yes.
Beachy. Don't know that one. Oh, Magic. Good one. Good call. Michael McLean. The Hitman.
Merritt.
Yep.
No, Hinks gave him that nickname, didn't he?
He did. Beachy Banfield, says Jed Zockling. Peter Banfield. Good call. Choco.
Okay. Roy Williams.
Yep. Ronnie Isco got Craig McRae, right? So did Andrew Green. So did Dimmer. So, yeah, okay, we've got... he's at the Hawks now, says Dimmer. And Jed. All right. So, anyway, we're both tipping Brisbane, perhaps not surprisingly. Next game, the big Saturday night clash at Marvel Stadium, 7:25 p.m. Richmond taking on GWS. Well, it's a litany of nicknames here.
There certainly is, isn't there?
Unfortunately, none are coming straight to mind for me. Why not? I've got one. Okay, my tip is the Whale.
Richmond's Brian Roberts.
Correct.
Well, I could go a general or a flea. They were pretty famous nicknames, or hungry. They're all too famous. Disco, they've got the most famous nickname in football. But I'll go for Bones.
Bones, Barry Richardson, of course. They're some great nicknames. Richmond gave very good nicknames.
I had another Bones, but you're right. Barry Richardson's correct.
Oh, who was yours? Oh, Robbie McGee.
Robert McGee.
Okay, so here's some more Richmond nicknames. Disco. I'll say the nickname, you say the player. Disco.
Roach.
Say it again because we didn't hear.
Michael Roach.
Okay, Skinny.
Jack Titus or Titus.
Captain Blood.
Captain Blood Jack Dyer.
The General.
Mark Lee.
The Flea.
Dale Waitman.
The Ghost.
Jim Jess.
Hungry.
Kevin Bartlett. How about Plod?
We've got a few more
I've got another one
Hungries.
for you.
Bones McGee's.
How about Plod?
Plod. Oh, Emmett Dunn.
Yes.
It was a policeman, of course. Johnson Von Trapp's weighed in with that mongrel.
All of them?
No, that was Johnson Von Trapp's dad's nickname for Kevin Sheedy. All right, so we're both tipping Richmond. This is fun tonight.
How about the Prez?
Oh, hang on. Who's the Prez? I thought it was Bruce Lindner.
There was another Prez. Sadly, this player died very young.
Oh, yeah, Richard Nixon.
Correct.
Died in a car accident.
No, I think so.
All right, next game, 7:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is Port Adelaide against the Western Bulldogs. Should be a great game, this one. All right, who are we tipping here? Gee, okay. You haven't frozen there, have you, Finey? You're still. Oh no, I saw you blink. It's all right. Hey, Finey just did his thing. Someone made the observation, Finey, that you purse your lips every few seconds. You just did it then.
Purser.
Andrew Purser.
Yeah. Lips. Lips.
All right. We need nicknames for either Port Adelaide or the Western Bulldogs, depending on who you're tipping. Just had a strange blank for some reason. Gee, I'm struggling here. Oh, I've got one, but I don't think people will get it because I don't know how well known it is.
Yeah.
Cankles.
Cankles? Right, he had big, fat ankles.
Correct.
Was that your own private nickname for him, or?
No. I'm told it was a well-known nickname.
Oh yeah, really?
Yep.
Who was it?
Damien Hardwick.
Huh. Oh dear.
All right. So who are you tipping?
Well, there was a player they called One-Eyed Jack.
One-Eyed Jack. Oh, not the guy with the funny eye.
The guy with one eye.
Daryl Paul.
Correct.
Was he called One-Eyed Jack? Was he?
Yeah.
Why Jack?
Well, it's out of a deck of cards. Is a One-Eyed Jack.
Okay. Daryl Paul. There's a bit of a throwback. All right, some other nicknames coming through. We've got Galaxy player, please.
Galaxy, Glenn Coleman.
Correct. The Smiling Assassin.
Hang on, is that West Coast?
No.
We haven't done them yet. Who's the Smiling Assassin?
Brad Johnson.
Yeah, they're media nicknames. I'm not into them.
Choco.
Well, Brian Royal, better than William.
Mr. Football.
Ted Whitten.
Yeah. All right, that's all we've got for that one. All right, so we are, okay, so One-Eyed Jack, which was Daryl Paul. Finey's going for Port Adelaide. And I went Cankles, Damien Hardwick.
So a couple of the sort of wrongly given nicknames in footy, the misnomers, the malapropisms.
Like what?
Ken Sheldon was Bomber, not Bomber.
Correct. Yep.
And Ricky Nixon was Chicker, not Chicken.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. What was Chicker about?
Well, I think it was a derivation from chicken, but he didn't like chicken and he let them run with chicken.
Made a huge difference. I wonder what his nickname would be now. Or not. Let's keep going. All right, Sunday games. 1:10 at Marvel Stadium. Essendon taking on Fremantle. All right, I'm going. Where do you start? All right, I'm going for. Well, see, I could. Yeah, we had our. Okay, I'm going for Volt.
Volt.
Yep.
These had to be widely known, not some privateer.
No, that was how he was known. Volt, premiership player, dual premiership player.
Hector.
That should tell you you've got to go back a fair way.
Yeah. Volt. Shane Hurd. I don't know.
No, same era though.
Yeah. Well.
Okay. Anyone want to guess who I mean by Volt? I'm sure someone will get it.
I know Nobby. I know from that team. There's a few.
Yeah, it's not that many.
Volt.
Leroy Jones had a good Port Adelaide one, by the way. Grave danger.
Yeah, he never played for he played for us.
Now, there's a Essendon player of the 80s with a very famous nickname, but you might not necessarily remember him primarily as an Essendon player.
So
played in the grand final for Essendon.
Oh, so you're talking about the Incredible Hulk?
I am.
Renee Kink.
All right, no one seems to know. Finey's gone again. No one seems to know who the Volt is.
Who is it?
It's Gary Foles.
Was he Volt?
Yep.
Oh, there you go.
Because he was safe as a Volt.
Okay.
All right, so go on, Finey. Tip someone.
I'm going for, the Ghost is one.
I don't know who you mean.
Or the Prince. You can go for the Prince or the Ghost.
What about King?
King?
Yeah, who's the Prince?
Go on.
Well, we know you're tipping Essendon.
I'm not tipping Essendon.
Oh, okay. You're tipping. Oh, that's right. You are. Sorry. Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, I thought you were tipping Essendon. Right, the Prince was that Winston Abraham?
No.
Was it Gary Durko?
No. He famously went for a run when playing for Melbourne and completely forgot to bounce the ball. He ran 40 metres once. Apparently a member of the royal family.
It's not coming to me. Who is it?
Scott Chisholm.
Scott Chisholm, that's it. He could have had the Wiz, of course.
The Ghost was another Scott. Scott Thornton.
Oh, I didn't know that one.
For his pale complexion.
All right, so Finey tipping Fremantle. He went with Scott Chisholm, the Prince. I went with Volt, Gary Foles. I'm going for Essendon. Okay, we'll hurry it up. 2 games to go. Melbourne Carlton at the MCG, 3:20 p.m. Your tip, please.
I'm going to go for Doc.
Don Cordner.
That's what the Doc is going for. Oh, player, I believe. I'm going for Melbourne. This guy's first name was Brian, but very few people knew him as Brian. So,
yeah, I know you mean. Doc.
You have a very close connection with this footballer because I can't think of another footballer who played AFL, VFL football who was born in Cuba.
Doc, yeah. Was he bald-headed? No, I'm thinking of someone else. No.
This guy was born in Cuba.
Did it start with R, the surname?
Yes, it did. 4 letters.
It's not coming.
Brian
Brian who?
Rowett, R-O-E-T.
Rowett. Yeah, that's it. All right.
Who was a doctor, went to England to become a psychotherapist, but was born in Cuba.
There you go. And I am going for, I've almost forgot to tip then. I am going for Hollywood.
Hollywood.
Yep. I mentioned the surname before, but this is a different one of them.
Not one of the Fidgers.
No, but same era.
Not one of the
famous Melbourne name.
Cordner.
Correct. David Cordner, Hollywood.
Was he Hollywood?
Yep. Here's some other tips. Nicknames: Diesel. That's from Leroy. Flash from Johnson Von Trapp. Ox, good one, Dimmer Smeaton. Harry, Johnson Von Trapp. Good to know too. Our audience being driven down very steadily. We've gone down by about.
Nickname?
I'll tell you what. One good reason for becoming a Footyology patron is it will enable Finey to buy some decent gear for live streaming, so we don't have this communication issue.
Can you hear me now?
I can.
What is your all-time favourite nickname of any player?
Well, it depends what you mean by favourite. Yeah, probably. The galloping gasometer.
A beauty.
Lou Richards, of course. Talking about Mick Nolan. What's yours?
Well, there was a player way back in the day for South Melbourne who were very tough, apparently, in the sort of 20s and 10s. And they had a player called Les Mortimer, who was brutal. And his nickname was Mother, because it was like the last word his opponent would say before he steamrolled him. Mother! So it was Les Mother Mortimer.
Very good. A few more nicknames. So Johnson Von Trapp's gone Harry. Johnson's picking Carlton, obviously. L has weighed in with Stinger. Stephen Tingay. Balls Grinter, says Robert Rice. And Johnson Von Trapp again, Russell the Muscle Crow.
How about Russell Richards, Rhino?
Rhino, correct. Russell Crowe, wasn't he Fitzroy?
Fitzroy, yep.
Oh, fave nickname. Right, okay. Travesty, says Matthew Love. Who was that? I don't know. I'm over this.
In time, the most fitting nickname was the Dominator, because he really played like that.
Wayne Johnson, of course.
Yep.
All right, last game of the round. West Coast taking on Adelaide. Boy, that could be ugly. 4:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at Optus Stadium in Perth. And our tips there, and you know which side we're going to tip. But who would you go with? I'm going for Bluey.
McKenna.
Correct. Who are you going for?
I'll go for the pharmacist.
Woosher.
We've got the halfback flanks covered, mate.
Who else could we have had there?
If we were
not taking Jacko or Summer.
No, and if we wanted 100 to 1 pop, we could say the Scud.
Hang on, Els just said trophy head, RoCo. I hope you don't mean I've got a trophy head. Oh, Brett Heady, of course. Unfortunately, you know what his nickname was, don't you?
Cardoors.
No, Brett Heady's
Jobby. Yeah.
Oh, Damon liked that one. Damon's a bit younger than us, as you might be able to tell at this point. It was a trophy head, though, definitely. G-Train, yeah, of course, played for West Coast. The Q-Stick, says Robert Rice.
Was he also glove?
Was he also what?
The glove.
Yeah, that's right. He did wear the glove. That was another of those media ones, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, El like that nickname for Brett Heady. Thanks, El. Thought you might. All right, we're going to wrap it up there. I think we've had more than enough. I certainly have. No, it's been good fun tonight. Thanks for that. What game are we doing again? Geelong St Kilda. No, not hearing you, Finey. See, this can be used to my advantage as well on occasion. Go on, say it.
What's it called when somebody flees a scene and is chased by police? The
absconding?
Was that, who's the absconder?
Me?
Ben Cousins?
Well, he has on occasion. What was Ben Cousins' nickname? He had one, didn't he? Oh, Cuz or something, yeah. The Weed, Wayne Wiedemann.
How about Daniel Kerr? Wasn't he Sam's older brother?
Yes. Well, it's about time he was known that way. All right, we're going to wrap it up there. Thanks for watching, everyone. You'll next hear us Sunday evening when we review round 9. Podcast should be up. In fact, hopefully, we'll discuss this post-show, guys, but hopefully we can get up reasonably early Sunday night. So tune in for that, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Try and support us on Patreon if you can. We've got a few tonight, so thank you very much for that. And we will return to do this next Friday evening. What is the game next Friday evening? Just out of interest, it is. No. It is Brisbane and Richmond. So rematch of last year's qualifying final, which the Lions won, of course. So that'll be a interesting. Prince of Perth, Richie Blunden says, is Ben Cousins, and getting a few thank yous. People, thank you for your thank you, Gary, and you too, Jed, always, and Matthew. Thank you very much. Always good to talk footy with you and the other sort of stuff we fall into talking about. Anyway, thanks everyone, and we'll see you here next Friday, and you'll hear from us Sunday evening when we wrap up round 9 on the podcast. Until then, have a great weekend. See ya.